Candace Owens is fired, with Jeremy Boring puts the tweet out there that this announcement was made, and the world lost their minds. And some say, well, we knew this day was coming. There's no way in the world this was going to be kept the way it was handled, wasn't fair, wasn't this, wasn't that. But let me kind of read it to you here. There will be no more Candace Owens at Daily Wire amid claims the conservative commentator promoted anti-Semitic rhetoric. This is New York Daily News, by the way. The right-wing political website announced Friday it has severed ties with Owens, known for support for Trump and Kanye West, famous for their own controversial comments. Daily Wire and Candace Owens have ended their relationship, co-founder Jeremy Boring wrote on social media. And Owens puts out there saying, I am finally free, she said in recent months. Owens cited a firestorm of backlash with her anti-Semitic commentary about the United States' role in the ongoing war. Look at the words they're using.
I know,
in these
anti-Semitic. They love that word.
Owens also floated claims that with a small group of Jewish in Hollywood and Washington, D.C. were involved in something sinister. Okay, so now Newsweek. Keep in mind how they're all reacting to this. Candace Owens says she cannot be silenced after the Daily Wire exit. Daily Wire CEO blasts Candace Owens after Christ is King. This was a little bit of a weird tweet, Rob. Can you pull this up of Jeremy Boring, that Christ is King? And is this the one? Yeah, so how is saying Christ is King anti-Semitic, says the CEO, Jeremy Boring of Daily Wire. We've had him on. I actually really enjoyed the conversation we had. The same way anything becomes anti-Semitic when it is used for the purpose of expressing anti-Semitism. It's like asking, how does a shovel become a murder weapon when it is used to murder someone? This isn't hard. A shovel is not innately a murder weapon. Saying Christ is King is not innately anti-Semitic. It's all about how a thing is used. Saying eat some cornbread is not racist if I say to my 3-year-old when she is refusing a dinner. If I start saying it to a response on X post by black commentators I don't like, it has taken on a meaning beyond what is innate. In other words, it is connotatively racist, not, how do you pronounce that word? Denotatively racist. So to Christ is King may be anti-Semitic in connotation while not in denotation when it is used to express anti-Semitism. When did this become so? It has always been so. It is so, yes, innately. Additionally, saying Christ is King for an evil purpose, like using it as a weapon to express your, I mean, it's just
what the hell?
You could have stopped a long time.
That's a ChatGPT. That's asking ChatGPT.
So
that's asking ChatGPT.
Anyways, I haven't commented on this. I'll give my thoughts here. Vinny, what are your thoughts about what's going on here with Daily Wire and Candace Owens?
I just think, like you said, and listen, let's all be honest with each other. I still, to this day, have not found one person, not one, that can have any critical, negative thoughts about what's happening with Israel and Palestine and not be thrown under the bus and considered an anti-Semitic. It's as if Israel can't do anything wrong. And if you do say one thing about Netanyahu or you say something about the tactics, it's automatically you're anti-Semitic. What's happening, that Rabbi Shmuley, who is just, the more and more he speaks, the more and more, people are turning away. Look at this embarrassed. This is the video that he made. Okay, by the way, he's a rabbi. And I wanted to ask you, Adam, because I literally, genuinely have zero idea. I'm a Christian. Our priests are, they're not allowed to be involved with writing sex books or selling lubes or whatever the hell his sex
Play
shop
this clip. First, see this clip,
This
guys.
is what he does.
Hi, everybody. Purim is a day of celebration. We feel bad for Candace Owens that she lost her job. So I figure, with her image of what Jews are supposed to look like, why not at least validate her? I am dressed up as a Candace Owens Jew. Now, this is not a Christian child, this is a Jewish child. But if it would be, I got my Christian blood.
What a disgusting
Spicy,
guy.
delicious. I got my Jewish nose. I have filth, because Jews are all filth. And more than anything else, what does 80 have? Money! Yeah, we Jews are all about money!
All about the Benjamins.
Wait, all about the Benjamins. Wait, I'm getting a little bit thirsty. Where's the matzah? I don't want to finish the whole thing and not mix it into the matzah. So can someone just bring me? She did say that I was getting.
What a weird
liked that
this,
tweet.
by the way. It's kind of disturbing. You go on the bottom on the clip, there's videos of him grinding a 12-year-old boy. sitting on top of
grinding boys. Like, by
Yeah.
the way, those kids, what do you think those kids are saying and thinking? And it's like, bro, if you followed what Candace was saying, if you followed this entire story, all she was asking was questions. And she was also saying, you know what? What's going on? When is enough enough? How many innocent children have to die? The fight that this guy's been going after Candace, because, again, you cannot say anything. You cannot
Rob,
be
can
critical.
you pull up the clip of how this got started? I think this got started with Ben Shapiro being recorded on camera.
Standing on the table.
Standing on, I don't
with
know
his
what he
shoes
was. Can
on.
you pull up that clip? I think that's how this whole thing started. I don't know if you'll find it or not. While you're looking for that, Tom, what are your thoughts about this here?
So I don't want to talk about that rabbi and that disgusting caricature that he portrayed there. If anybody did that about any other group in any other way, you'd be subject to such response and even attempts to cancel and all that. So let's set that aside. I look at it this way. Jeremy and Ben run a media company. They're the bosses. They employ Candace. Candace does her shows. Jeremy and Ben have positions on things in their media company. Candace ends up counter to Ben on some positions. The CEO can say, you know what, Candace, you have the freedom to say what you want, but on our show here on that, I disagree with you. And you know what? I disagree for the following reasons. You know what? Maybe this isn't the best place for you. Happens at Salem Broadcasting. It happens at a lot of places. That's how Rush Limbaugh ended up on his own network. This happens in media all the time. Good CEOs go behind closed doors and sit down with people and say, maybe this isn't working out. Maybe we shouldn't do this. Why don't we take care of it like this? Instead, I fault Ben. You're the founder or co-founder, whatever you and Jeremy refer to that as, and you were the CEO or are the CEO or have the influence of the CEO, and you make a comment about one of your employees in a public way. And suddenly you spark and this thing spills out in public. And I don't think that was particularly good management. And I don't think that was particularly good leadership. And it ends with the employee leaving. I kind of boil it down that simple, Pat.
And what about Tom when she says Christ is king? Where do you see the anti-Semitism? No matter how she did, all she did was post that.
All the rest of the subpoints, how they play out, it's going to be, oh, well, that's like this or this is like that. That's like this. Once you play it out and you start what I call phrase picking and saying, well, that on that day in that way was anti-Semitic, or this in this day wasn't very nice, or this on this day wasn't supportive of leadership. You know what no one is saying? No one's backing up and saying, hey, Ben, hey, Jeremy, you're running a company. Aren't you the leaders? Why are you doing this thing in public? If you want to build your media company and build things what you stand for, you've had some really good films that have come out making very important points. Why don't you guys just kind of calm down, go behind closed doors and have a conversation with each other and figure it out? Why spill this out in public this?
So Rob, if you can play the first clip, if you have this one, play this clip, because this is how it starts, right? Play this.
Yeah, and she still works for my company. And I think she's been absolutely disgraceful. I think that her faux sophistication on these particular issues has been ridiculous. It's not faux sophistication, it's ridiculous. Everybody can see the moves that she's making and the things that she's saying, and I find them disreputable.
So then, right after this, comments are made. The next day, she's on Tucker Carlson. And this wasn't obviously planned. You don't just go on Tucker Carlson the next day because Tucker's got a schedule, she's got a schedule. This was probably booked 6 weeks or 2 months in advance. Like we had Dave Rubin the other day, the day before. Yep. The market's like, oh, did Dave reach out to come on today? No, we had Dave booked how many weeks prior to that, Rob? Like
it was a while, about a month.
About a month prior to that he was booked, and he came with the calendar. Play this clip here with Candace.
To call somebody, quote, absolutely disgraceful, particularly a coworker, seems like a pretty big step. What? And I really don't know the background here. What is that about?
You know, there isn't much of a background. I saw the video when everybody else saw it when I woke up.
No one warned you about it.
Nobody warned me about it. It looks like maybe he didn't know he was being recorded. It looks like it was some sort of a private event. I got no clarity on the issue that he was particularly speaking on. And in what was said, I can't respond to it beyond what he's saying because it's just ad hominem attacks. I don't know.
Yeah, because it's not, we disagree or, I don't think she's correct or maybe she doesn't know what she's talking about. It's absolutely disgraceful.
Yeah, exactly. And so I can't respond to it on a level of intellect because there's nothing that he has expressed, at least in that short clip, that he fundamentally disagrees with in terms of what I said. But I will say that I'm not going to respond with the same ad hominem attacks.
Yes.
I don't think it helps further discussion. And if that was me that was caught on a video saying that about colleagues that I work with, I would be embarrassed. So I think that the video speaks more to Ben's character than it speaks to mine.
Has he texted you to apologize or explain or anything?
No, nothing. I haven't heard a single word. It just was sort of something that he said. And you know what? Ben and I have many disagreements, so I don't think that that's particularly something that's interesting. We disagreed on the COVID vaccine. We disagreed on Ukraine and Russia. He has taken virtually every stance that has been the opposite of mine on every issue over the last 5 years. So I don't think that that's particularly
On the COVID
remarkable.
vaccine. Really, I didn't remember that.
Yeah, he was pro the COVID vaccine. I was anti the vaccine. You know,
I'll give my thoughts. And then Adam, I'll come to you.
Sure.
Okay. So here's kind of how I process this. I enjoy watching Candace a lot. I enjoy watching Tucker, and I enjoy watching Ben Shapiro. There's been things I've agreed and disagreed on with everybody. When you see something like this happen, you don't want to see something like this happen. But it's from more the strategic standpoint. When I watch this, I see a couple different things. One is the way this was handled, with Candace saying what she said, and then privately calling her out disgraceful in an event, and you guys disagree on certain issues politically. Okay, no problem. There's nothing wrong with that. That's okay. We sit here on the podcast today, me and Adam disagree, and then Adam and Vinny will disagree. Adam and Vinny, whatever it is, we'll have the disagreements. We'll hash it out. We'll move on, and it's totally fine. Ben Shapiro, to me, like I said to Dave Rubin, is a number one voice for the Jewish community worldwide. I don't think he's got a louder voice. Nobody's got a louder voice than he does. Very influential. But Jeremy Boring, it's a different story if the CEO, Jeremy Boring, putting himself in a position like this, that he defends automatically Ben Shapiro and, the positions she takes with Christ is King. There's so many different elements here to unpack. Christ is King. Okay, people can have differences in their faith. You can have a difference in your faith on what you think with Jesus, what you think with, Jews, Christians, Scientology. I was in an office for 3 years, and I was working with half the office were all Scientologists. I was in another office where everybody was Mormon, LDS, Joseph Smith, Book of Mormon. Everything we talked about was that, and we were able to coexist. There is nothing wrong with that if debate is the issue. The position Daily Wire took, which is going to be very interesting to see how that whole organization is going to react to it. Jeremy Boring's moves are coming across more as being a manager to Ben Shapiro, and only Ben Shapiro, than a Dana White being put in a position to manage and drive a company. Now, if he makes this decision as the CEO, I don't know if they have a board. I don't know if the board has a voice. I know the Wilkes brothers, who are this billionaire family that have been investors in their organization. They've been investors in PragerU organization. They've been investors in many different organizations. Their faith, if I'm not mistaken, the Wilkes brothers, Rob, if you can pull them up, I think they're one of those, what's that, not 7 Day, but Tom, the Jews for Jesus organization, which they're...
Messianic Jews?
It's called the Assembly of Yahweh 7 Day, which...
7 Day Adventists?
Which they are Jews for Jesus type of a organization, which these are the founders, these are the investors that are within the organization. When you make a position like that and you're defending Ben Shapiro the way you did, and you're obviously going against anybody that says Christ is King, and one of their talents comes out 3 days ago, I don't know what his name is, he makes a video saying Christ is King is anti-Semitic. Rob, if you have that clip, I know you have this clip, if you can send it to Rob. You watch all of this stuff. This is the one. If you can play this clip here, go on and play this clip. What is his name? Clavon?
When I did this, by the way, the priest who baptized me said, Christians won't accept you. You'll still be a Jew. And I said, well, I am. That's my race. I'm a Jew. I'm proud of my race. It's a great race. It's done many, many great things, including write the Bible. And, I am a Jew. But that hasn't happened at all. Christians have welcomed me with open arms, except this Christ the King anti-Semitic crowd.
Oh, God.
Christ is the King. And one day, every knee will bow and recognize it, because he's not just my king, he's king of the universe. But when you use that phrase to mean that God has abandoned his chosen people, the Jews, through whom he came into this world incarnate, and that he's broken his promises, his covenant with the Jews, you are quoting scripture like Satan does in the Bible.
Jeez.
You're quoting scripture.
What are you...
Let me tell you, that is super heavy.
Oh, my
That is super heavy when you make a comment like that. And by the way, you know where this goes? Let me tell you where this goes. So it would have been different if Jeremy takes a position to say, yeah, we have different denominations here. Everybody has the right to defend whatever faith and religion they have. And, and by the way, this guy used to be the pastor for, I think, what is the Republican club in Hollywood, Tom,
Friends of Abe?
Friends of Abe, right? I think he was one of the founders, and he was the pastor of that group, if I'm not mistaken. Jeremy Boring.
With Kelsey Grammer.
Yes. I mean, Jeremy Boring is within this space, he's a heavyweight on what he did. There you go, Executive Director Jeremy Boring. I think he was their pastor, so Christian. He's well-read on the faith and all this other stuff. So, I don't know. When you handle it that way, what you're pinning your brand as is, I will 100% defend Ben Shapiro, and that is it. And it's going to be very hard for other people who want to coexist. Now, they may well sit there and say, we can lose everybody, but as long as we have me and Ben, we're going to be all right, and we'll go till the very end. Great. It's going to be tough to have other people who want to coexist if you brand yourself that way. It's very difficult. Now, they may also look at Candace, because if you look at their lineup, Ben is considered an intellect. Jordan Peterson considered an intellect, right? A lot of these guys may be considered an intellect. Maybe to them, they don't view Candace as an intellect. Maybe they look at Candace and say, she lacks intellect. She is not as scholarly educated on the history of this and this and that, and 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 that's who it is. Well, I think America probably relates more to somebody like her and everybody else who thinks they are the intellect, because that is a form of being an elitist if you think everything you do is right and you're not willing to have those types of conversations with others. So I actually don't know the decision they made. However, here's how business works. Tom, you and I know this. If your decisions, say whatever number they have, a lot of people online are throwing around a number that their top line revenue is $200 to $250 million per year. Okay, it's a real business. $200 to $250 million per year. No problem. They got a lot of big projects going on. I think most of them are committed for movies, this, and that. Okay, no problem. Everyone's going to see the effect of Candace Owens, what it's going to cost in subscribership, in dollar amount, in revenue. Maybe they're right. Maybe she's right. Market's going to decide. But if you make too many decisions like this and it's one-sided and you oust the other side, it feels like if I'm going here, I can only be on one side. And if I'm not safe because I could go somewhere else. The series of the way they made their decisions is questionable. But every time you run a business, I'm also on the other side when I run a business, and every decision we make, it's easy to target. Hey, look at what they did with the insurance company. Look what they did, and the Pat's wrong, and this is why they're losing, and people are leaving, and da-da-da. It's so easy to also take shots while you're actually a person running the business. It is very hard to run a company. It is very hard to start a company and grow to $250 million, whatever the top line revenue is, and have the employees, and especially in a space that you're giving your opinions. It has got to be super hard, and you're constantly going to be having shots being taken at you, but that's the job you chose to have. The market will look at you and see, if you think this was the right decision to make, let's see how the market reacts to it, and they will with numbers, with subscribers, and dollars. Tom.
And that's the market. And I've been very clear. Daily Wire has made some great content, great films that I think need to be made that are very helpful to their audience. What I look at is the how. And Pat, I've watched you over the years. You've had very difficult discussions have had to happen with some sales leaders. I've never seen you put out a tweet that rips somebody up or call them publicly disgraceful. I've seen you take names out of it and speak to a sales meeting. Some of you I'll be speaking to because we need to make the company better, and I don't think you're as good as you can be. I've heard you say things like that. That's a general statement where everybody sits back there. Boy, I hope that's not about me. Maybe I should reflect on how I'm doing. And then I've seen you in private, at private meetings, sit down with people, no microphones, no camera, and look somebody in the eye and say, what are you doing? What was this all about? And then take them through the facts. How do you think that looks to your team? How do you think that looks to other people? How do you think that reflects on the company? Those are best done privately to move a company forward. And I think the leadership, if I was Ben, I wouldn't have done it that way, because you're in a media company. It's going to explode, and you can have those conversations quietly.
See, the difference is, Tom, I'm okay with Ben saying that. I'm actually okay with what Ben said, because you know what Ben says? Ben says, number one priority in my life is my faith, and I'm a Jew. That's my number one priority. It's Israel. It's my faith. It's where I stand. Fine.
That's totally
I have
fine.
no problem with that, right?
Do you?
Number two is my conservative beliefs, et cetera, where I'm at. Number three is Daily Wire and the other talent. Obviously, you can put family in there as well. I'm taking family out. But that's how he's no problem. You can do that. If you, the guy that's running the business, then can kind of bring everybody together to dinner, that's a part of your job to do the dinner, and nobody needs to know. And by the way, maybe they had the dinner. Maybe, Candace and George had dinner with Ben and his wife, and everybody's around and sitting there talking and saying, guys, what's on your mind? What's going on? Well, look, here's where he stands. Here's where she stands. Can we coexist? Because at the end of the day, guess who's the enemy? The enemy is not Daily Wire. The enemy is not Candace. The enemy is not Ben Shapiro. The enemy is what the manipulation is taking place amongst your kids on what they're doing with religion, with faith, with families, with policies, with border. That is the enemy. Can we unify against the real enemy? If then one says, nope, this is where I draw the line. You screwed up. I'm done with you. Then we got to make a decision, right? And if that meeting's been had, guess what? Salute. Good for Jeremy for having that. But if that meeting's not been had, and maybe they're having it right now, I don't even know what's. But the point is, it's a little bit strange. But the market will react, and we'll see what they're going to say. See what they're going to say, Adam.
All right. Well, we've spent some good amount of time with Candace, and let me just say off top, I've enjoyed my time with Candace. I thought she was great. We've done content, we've done interviews, we did the live podcast. Really enjoy Candace. She has problems with certain individuals, not groups. And I think that's a distinguishment everyone needs to make. I often say some of my favorite people in the world are Jews. Some of my least favorite people in the world are Jews. Some of my favorite people in the world are Mexicans. Least favorite, Mexicans. Goes down the list, Muslims, Arabs, Christians, Catholics, all that. They have problems with individuals. The thing with Ben and Candace.
If you would have said Assyrian or Armenian,
this shit would have been ugly real quick.
We all know about those Assyrians.
Right.
Yeah.
We all know about the Assyrians. They're very hospitable. And hung, but we all
stupid. Just finish.
Keep private information.
Sorry.
No, why are you gonna no?
Go ahead.
Guys,
make your point.
Single. We've all seen relationships that publicly, like I'm talking dating, husband, wife, where they're fighting. It's ugly. It's like, if this is what's going on in public, what we see, what in the world is happening behind closed doors? Once the Ben and Candace thing started going on, I think we all knew this thing was not going to last long. It was not inevitable.
And what was it? It was the Israel conflict.
Well, and I'll get into the policy difference in a second. So, number one, the rabbi situation. One guy, one rabbi doesn't speak for an entire religion. This guy is an entertainer at first and foremost. That's what he is.
Shmuley,
exactly. What people don't know is that, why is he dressed up like this? Did he just decide one day be a great costume? The current holiday that is going on in the Jewish world is called Purim. Purim is the Jewish Halloween. So this was his cute little Halloween thing. I think it's beneath a rabbi. I think any rabbi of mine should never do anything like this. But if we want to go down the slippery slope of religious leaders doing the wrong things, okay, your Catholic priests, they don't represent every Catholic person out there. Don't get me started on the imams calling for jihad. They don't represent every Muslim Arab out there. So this guy doesn't represent Judaism or Israel. He represents himself. That's it, period. Number two, Candace, she did about a month ago, she outlined exactly where she stood on this overall topic. And the first 10 minutes, she talked about her entire life. She was surrounded by Jewish friends. My best friend is Jewish. I went to more Rosh Hashanah dinners than any non-Jew should ever go to. My first job in finance, Jewish person. She said she lived and dated with a guy who was Jewish. So I don't think someone like that just goes down to anti-Semite. I think she's fighting specifically about policy disagreements, specifically with Ben. She talked about the COVID thing. She talked about the Russia thing. She talked about the Ukraine thing. She talked about the Israel thing. At the end of the day, she's on the isolationist camp. Don't do anything. Don't fund anything. Ben is clearly on the interventionist camp. Fund this. War in Israel, war in Russia. That's what they had a disagreement on. They could not work that out. I believe adamantly in free speech. There's people on this chat right now calling me a gay Jew. Okay? Only one of those things is true, buddy. I'm a proud Jew.
I actually just messaged it
Thank
in the
you,
chat
Vinny.
too.
Gotcha. Guys, keep it coming. I love the haters. I love the haters.
Adam, you have 1 minute
It's
left.
amazing. It's fine. I'm totally cool with rhetoric. Where it gets very ugly is when rhetoric turns into actual violence. So, Rob, if you want to show these stats, I don't give a shit what you say, but when we start talking about hate crimes, actual hate crimes, nobody is doing it like how they do to the Jews. You see that big blue number in the middle of the pie? That's the Jewish hate crimes.
And where's that? That's worldwide or United States?
This is worldwide.
Okay.
Okay. So there's Muslims in there. There's Christians
Who
in
is
there.
this, Yeah,
who is the
Jehovah's
chart?
Witnesses.
Is
Rob,
this
you can
Pew
check
Research?
this. Rob could check it on that. By the way,
That's a blurry ass photo.
There's a million different stats.
Oh, I believe
articles.
it. I just want to know who it's from so we can tell
Rob,
the audience.
Rob could do that. Check that, Rob. So fact check that.
I believe it's CNN.
Okay.
Weird.
Well, if they said it, it can't be true, obviously.
Yeah, obviously.
So I believe that Candace should say whatever the hell she wants to say. I believe you, the haters out there, should say whatever you want to say. At the end of the day, as far as a business situation goes, imagine me sitting next to PBD for 4 years now, and all I talked about was I hate capitalism, I love DEI, I love wokeness, my hero's Dylan Mulvaney. I probably wouldn't be here too long. And that's what happened with
Wait, all
Candace
that.
and Ben.
Wait. You don't. All that is not your.
Yeah,
That's not my thing.
but the straw that broke the camel's back was the one thing. I think calling her anti-Semitic is complete BS, and then searching for shit in podcasts with the Rabbi Barkley when she goes, "Yeah, the Shmuley's daughter's a hag," and he goes, "Wait a minute, did you know in 1700 I understand anti-Semitism, but to be searching and digging to make that happen because that's the straw. The straw was anything against Israel.
I could give two shits about what that one rabbi had to say to Candace. I don't
But these
care.
are one rabbis that cost her job.
Okay,
it's
so
Shmuley and her in a conversation.
Rob, roll the tape of all the imams calling to kill the Jews. You were going to be here for the next 10 years.
We're talking about Candace Owens.
But my point is this: hey, words are not violence. Separate the two. The bottom line is this: Candace is looking for a new job. I'm sure there's plenty of reputable media companies that would love to hire her.
Okay, so here's where we can wrap this story up here with Candace Owens and Daily Wire. Okay, the numbers will dictate if it's a good decision or a bad decision. The reality of it is, Ben Shapiro's. There's always going to be an audience for what he has to say. Candace Owens, there's always going to be an audience for what she has to say. I think Candace is just getting started. I think she's in her, how old is Candace? Early 30s? Like, is she in her late 20s, she's early 30s?
Mid 30s.
34. Okay, well, good for her. She's 34 years old. She's going to be around for a long time to come. Ben Shapiro, how old is Ben Shapiro? Can you type in Ben Shapiro's age?
38?
No. He's in his 40s.
Okay, he's 40 years old. They're 6 years apart. They're both not going away, okay? They're both not going away anytime soon. And the market needs to hear both sides of their stories. We're going to see what happens here and how the market reacts, numbers-wise. It's very simple. The good news about podcasts and shows and everything nowadays, you can pretty much track on who's doing right and who's not because the data is public. You cannot hide. There's nothing worse than seeing numbers being live and they're growing or worse, and you're like, oh my God, the market can tell I'm not doing good. That's what sucks about capitalism. Everybody sees it. This is why a lot of singers that were once big hits that they used to have sellout crowds, now they're selling out small audiences or whatever they go. It's a very difficult phase to go through, and the market's going to be very direct to all of us in the next few years based on the decisions we make. That's what I bank on. But for those of you guys that watch the podcast regularly, and maybe you have hot tea like me with honey, or you drink your coffee, to the coffee community, I'll most likely join you guys in 5 years, but at this point, I still don't need coffee. We have these new mugs. And by the way, this new mug that just came out is the PBD Podcast mug with Future Looks Bright on it. So let me kind of show this to you, and I'll tell you what we're running on this podcast. And Kelly took care of this. Let me pour this so I don't burn myself.
Taking one. I'm acquiring one of those after this.
Watch this here. So you pour the hot water in there if it's hot.
Ooh, magic.
And guess what it turns into, by the way, while you're having this hot tea or the drink. Let me see if this thing is hot. It is hot. All of a sudden, slowly but surely, you see the color changes.
I see it.
To the PBD Podcast colors.
Oh, that's sick.
And yes, you'll see the red and the blue of PBD Podcast color coming in. I don't know if
Pat, you're like one of those models on those late night, like by the
QVC back in the day.
Your PBD QVC.
Here's what we're doing. We got the Valuetainment mug. You have four different options on whichever one you want to get, whether it's the gold, the black, the red, the OG, red or the black. You buy two, you get the third one for free. Pick and choose which one you want. The link's going to be below. The discount code's going to be PBD Mugs, I believe. Right, Rob? PBD Mugs, plural. PBD MUGS. And what's the website to go to? VTmerch.com. Find the mugs, order two, and you'll get the third one for free.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.